Welcome to the Dusty Jobs podcast from Imperial Systems. Industry knowledge to make your job easier and safer.
Once again, thanks for joining us on the Dusty Jobs podcast. We're doing our special Made in America edition. And joining us today is Congressman Mike Kelly of the Pennsylvania 16th District. Thanks for coming on today.
Thank you. It's good to be here. I've never been in a Dusty podcast before, but being in Imperial, I've been here before. This is great. Glad to be here with you.
Yeah. We're super excited to have you on. And Mike, just tell us a little bit about yourself, if you don't mind, and maybe how you got started into politics. And you're in our district here, so we just want to hear about you. And
yeah, getting involved in politics for me really came out of a situation where, in the Obama administration, General Motors had some problems, and they went to the government for assistance. They got assistance, but then part of the back part of that was, well, then the government started to say, well, you're going to have to get rid of certain dealerships, and you're going to have to get rid of certain people are not going to be allowed to be in business anymore. One of the stores we have, we're a Chevrolet Cadillac dealer.
Right. Because that's your history, right?
Yes,
you're in the car
yeah,
business.
Yeah.
You've been in the car business for a long time.
My mother and dad started our business in 1953. Both of them worked at a Chevrolet warehouse in Pittsburgh pre-World War II. My dad went off to the war, came back home, went back to work for Chevrolet. He was on the road for Chevrolet, and in 1953, he got his first dealership in a little town called Verona in West Pittsburgh. So, we go back a long way into that. In fact, if you looked at my family history, the Kelly side, my grandfather Kelly was a conductor on the B&O Railroad. My grandfather on the other side of the aisle was in the fruit business. His name was McTighe, but the other half of the Kelly combination was my grandmother, Mary Simmelsberger.
Okay.
And they were in the livery business. And my dad always said, I said, how did we ever get into the car business? And he said, well, you know what? Your grandpa Simmelsberger was in the livery business, and maybe it was kind of a takeover from then. We just kind of rolled, as it would be, into this business. So my dad, working for Chevrolet from after the war until '53, got a chance to get his first dealership, little one-car showroom, about 4 service bays, and they worked 7 days a week. And at that time, we used to take the cars. Not me. I was just a child at the time, so I was 5 years old. But I used to go down to the railroad siding with my dad, and he would take these cars off the train. He'd take them home in our basement, and back then, you had to service the car to get it ready before you could sell it.
Right.
And he would do that work in our basement. And the big thing then, the options, were pretty much the cars were standard, but he was good at sewing seat covers. So one of the accessories that they would sell to customers would seat covers, and my dad would make those seat covers.
Little upgrade.
Yes. So that's how we get started. And moved to Butler in 1957.
That's a great American history story,
right there.
It
really is. It's but it's not uncommon.
Right.
So whenever you talk to people and you're like, so how did your family get into this business or that business? A lot of it was just generational.
Yeah.
Although for my dad it was different. He was the first one in his family, and my grandfather Kelly was upset with him. And when my dad told him, he said, you know what, Pop, I got a chance to become a Chevrolet dealer, and I'm going to become a Chevrolet dealer. And my grandfather Kelly said, my God, George, what is wrong with you? You're the first Kelly to ever wear a white shirt to work. They even give you a car to drive for nothing. Are you out of your mind?
Yeah.
And my dad said, hey, you know what, Pop, look, it's just that I'm kind of in the business I'm in now. I can't determine my own future. If I'm in business for myself, I can. So if I'm going to work hard, I want to work hard for myself and for my family, and that's how we get in the business. And so in '57, we moved from Pittsburgh up to Butler.
Yeah.
Chevrolet Cadillac agency on Main Street in Butler. In 1997, as it were, then I bought the dealership from my father.
Oh, okay.
So I became the owner-operator in Butler, and then in 2001, I had the opportunity to pick up a Hyundai franchise, bought the Hyundai franchise, incorporated it on our dealership lot, and then in 2003 or 4, I got the Kia dealership. And so we're on a 10-acre site that is actually the front corner of our farm.
Oh, I gotcha.
So we've added on, and it's been an interesting run. It's been good for the most part, but you do have those days where you You say, oh gosh, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. We go through good business cycles and bad business cycles, but
Right.
Surviving is the key. And I think any of us that are in business say, you know what, you learn from your mistakes, and surviving near-death situations really makes you smarter for the next time, and you're very cautious. And I think you're forced to be conservative in your thinking. You have to be, because everything is on the line every day.
Not just for you, but for those you're taking care of, and your
Yeah,
employees.
yeah.
And I think that's a great story. So you fast forward
Yes.
to you're owning the dealerships now, and you get to a point where there's the government's starting to interfere with what trying to tell you what to do.
They took one of the franchises away. I get a letter, a 28-page letter, and everything in the letter was kind of boilerplate until you get to the last paragraph. It says, so sign the release form included with this communication, and you'll no longer be a Cadillac dealer. Or you can go and fight this and say, I want to go to arbitration. So I got a call from General Motors, and zone manager said, listen, we sent you communication. I said, yeah, 28 pages. He goes, what'd you think of it? I said, you must be kidding me. You don't really want to know my answer. I said, but I will tell you this, I'm going to arbitration. The guy on the other end of the line started laughing. He said, you, Mike Kelly, in little Butler, Pennsylvania, are going to go in a battle against the U.S. government, and you can't possibly win. I said, well, you know what? I don't know about that. One thing I do know, if I don't go into the fight, I for sure can't win.
That's true.
But I'm not going to back away from this. It's taken a long time, since 1953, to get to this point.
Right.
I bought this business from my father. I didn't inherit it. He didn't give it to me. I bought it from him. I got a big mortgage to pay. I'm going to fight you guys tooth and nail to try and keep the franchise. You know what? We actually go to arbitration and we win.
Nice.
Yeah, we win. And then, going forward, we go through that first couple of years of the Obama administration. We fight the fight and we win the battle. And the next thing I know, there's another election coming up.
Right.
And there was a gal named Kathy Dalkemper who was serving at that time, it was Pennsylvania's 3rd Congressional District. Before Miss Dalkemper, there was a guy named Phil English.
Okay.
Phil English had been there, I think, about 14 years. I got a call from Phil. He says, hey, are you going to be in the dealership? I said, yeah, I'm here. I got to be. And he goes, I want to talk to you. So he comes to the dealership, and I said, Phil, really good to see you. Sorry, you're not still serving in Congress. He says, well, that was a wave election. President Obama's in office. Ms. Dalkemper is now our representative. He said, but what I wanted to talk about was you running for Congress. I said, me? No. Listen, I got a pretty full schedule right now. We got about 150 people that expect to be paid every 2 weeks. I think I better just stay here and work at the business. He said, no, seriously, we need people from the private sector serving in these positions, because it's too much about professional politicians and people who've never had to worry about making payroll, people who've never had to worry about the regulations, the taxes. They haven't had to worry about that. You may be a guy that could make a difference. And so I talked to my wife, I talked to my kids. My wife initially said, absolutely not. I know how this works. They go after your kids, they go after you, they go after your family. It's just not worth it. It's horrible. And I said, well, the alternative is, if somebody from the private sector doesn't serve, you'll keep the same model that you got going on now.
Right.
But my kids said, Dad, no, at least try. So I was one of like 14 or 15 candidates in a Republican primary for the election in 2010, the fall of 2010. Got through the primary and then got into the general election, and then won in the general election. So went into office in 2011.
Yeah.
And just so now we're finishing up, and from 2011 till now, so we're 9, 10. We're gonna be 10 years in it.
Yeah. So you've been in the private sector in 2008 when
Yes.
things were a little bit tough, and,
Very
and
tough.
Now you're on the other side during this current time where it's
Absolutely.
kind of getting a little tough again, huh? But you've been through some tough stuff. Hey, you just got through being. You just had the COVID-19.
I had the coronavirus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us about that. How did that affect you? How did you feel? Is there a lot of misconceptions about it out there? And from your personal experience,
Okay,
what do you think?
my personal experience, because we were home from Washington. It was St. Patrick's Week in the middle of March, and we were working every day. And I come home from work, and my wife would say, "You don't look good." And I said, "Well, thanks." She goes, "No, seriously, you don't look like you feel good." I said, "I feel fine." She goes, "Well, I'm not sure that you do or not. You're sleeping, you're going to bed early, you're getting up early to go to work, but it seems to me that you're sleeping a lot more than you normally would." Well, I wasn't seeing it the way she saw it.
Uh-huh.
But what happened to me? First of all, you lose your appetite. You have no appetite at all. You have no your taste. You can't taste things. You have muscles. I had muscle spasms. I had headaches. But the biggest part of the coronavirus is the respiratory problem. I did not have the respiratory problem, and I had friends that had it at the same time I did. And they said, "Are you on a ventilator?" And I said, "Of course I'm not on a ventilator. I couldn't be talking to you." They said, "Are you on oxygen?" I said, "Not on oxygen." "Are you in the hospital?" I said, "No, I'm at home." They said, "Really? What do you think the difference is?" I said, "Well, I'll tell you what, early on, my wife said, please go get tested for this because I think you're ill."
Right.
So the test is a long swab that they insert up your nose. And really, when it goes in, you think it's going to come out the corner of your eye. No, I'm serious. It's very uncomfortable. A couple days later, my doctor called me back. He said, "How are you feeling?" I said, "I feel fine. I'm tired." He goes, "You know what? You tested positive."
Oh, man.
So I said, "Okay, well, Bill, then what do I do? I mean, I know I can't be out in the public, so we'll self-quarantine for a couple of weeks." He goes, "No, there's going to be more than that for you." He says, "I want you to look into something. There's something called hydroxychloroquine.
Okay.
Your general health is good, but I want you to read up on it, and I want you to discuss it with Vicki and see what you think. I think it's something you may want to try, because if this settles in your respiratory system, it can be really serious." I said,
Right.
"Let me read up on it." Read up on it, got back to him a day or two later. I said, "You know what, Bill, I'm going to try it." So very early on in my battle with the coronavirus, I was taking hydroxychloroquine.
And that worked for you?
And you know what? For me, it worked. I know there was some controversy over it, and most of the controversy came down to, well, if President Trump endorses it, it must be bad.
Yeah.
Well, because, listen, with some people, no matter what the president does, it's wrong.
Right.
But it's been since proved to be an alternative and something you should look forward to. The good part about having the coronavirus and recovering fully is that you get your blood tested, and I have the antibodies.
Oh.
So because you have the antibodies, you can now enter into this immune therapy where they will take the plasma from your blood and they'll use that in trying to develop a vaccine that could defeat the coronavirus and maybe keep somebody alive. Easy process, painless. You go to the blood bank, they take your blood. Your blood goes right back into your body minus the plasma that was taken out. And you do that. I've been doing that. I've done it 3 times now. I probably will do it another 3 or 4 times. I can do it about every 10 days. So,
great.
So for that part, that's been good.
Yeah.
That's been good.
Yeah, my wife and I also just went to give blood to see if we had the antibodies, see if we could help out. We came back negative that we didn't have it, but I know exactly what you're talking about. And we were actually hoping maybe we had it so that we could try to help out like you're helping out.
Yeah, so. It's as I said, even out of the worst situations, usually there's something good.
Yeah.
So for me, in my situation, was I sick for a while? Yes, I was sick for a while. Loss of appetite. I lost 30 pounds in about 10 days.
Oh, my.
Put a little bit back on, but it was just because I had no desire to eat.
Right.
I couldn't taste anything. So I was drinking water, eating little things of applesauce. That was about it.
Right. So in the same way that the coronavirus kind of caused you to slim down, I think we've seen a little bit of the slimming down of the American economy. And, I know you probably have a little bit of a different perspective of that because you're seeing it more at a federal level and seeing how things are playing out and just trying to get your opinion on that. How do you feel that the economy's doing right now and maybe how it's going to go down the future? How do you think?
I think the president's reaction right away was to get some programs put together. So working in conjunction with the Congress to come up with economic relief programs that would really help out. The PPP program is one that was very essential. And we look back at that now. Over 5 million businesses were able to participate in this loan process. 51.1 million American workers were able to still get that paycheck. They didn't get laid off.
Right.
They were able to still get paid. And I think people lose the concept of what does that mean. Well, here's what it means. If you're not laid off, you're not on unemployment compensation. If you're not laid off and you're being paid, that means you're still contributing with your wage taxes into the Social Security and the other taxes. You get taxed on that money.
Yeah.
And for the businesses, it meant they were able to stay open. Now, in Pennsylvania, Governor Wolf and Secretary Levine had decided that there's non-life essential businesses, and so a lot of businesses were forced to shut down. It wasn't because the business had a flawed business philosophy. It wasn't some kind of a blunder.
Right.
It was something decided by the administration, the Pennsylvania administration, that these businesses would be shut down. In some cases, as you know, it was controversial about what was being shut down.
Right.
States that surround us didn't have the same restrictions. And so in some people, you're competing in a market where the people right across the state border are wide open, and yet the market you're in, you're shut down.
Right. Like
can't operate.
We're sitting 20 minutes from Ohio right now, and they were definitely on different regulations.
Yeah.
Some of our employees are even from Ohio. And so very familiar with what you're saying as far as different businesses didn't quite make the playing field as even in the economy at that point, whenever that was going on. But we're glad for everything that's going on with the federal government and what they've done to try to help out. And do you see anything else coming down the line that might be kind of helping get things going again?
I do. I think that the president's very aware. And, thank God we have somebody from the private sector, not a professional politician, who's never had to worry about their business being successful in order to still make payroll, never had to worry about regulations holding you back from being able to produce a product or the service that you've done. And you look and say sometimes it's the regulations are, who came up with these ideas? And you find out, not anybody that's ever been in business, but politicians and policymakers that have never actually walked that walk.
Right.
And so they're coming up with these ideas. I'm not saying that they're bad people. I'm just saying that while they may have been well-intended, they were flawed.
Right.
So we look at that. I think any of us from the business world, the private world, we look at things so differently because we can't afford to make a mistake. You're walking a high wire without a net underneath you. If you fall,
right,
to catch you, you actually hit the ground and you get hurt. I just think that what we've always been in America, we're a country made up of people who love to work. They love challenge. They love something in front of them that people say, you can't possibly get through this. Say, you know what? Watch me.
Right.
Watch me. I will. And so I think that's basically who America is. Now, I think one of the things that's happened, though, and again, politicians making policy and not having any background in the businesses that they're making policy for. So why do I say that? Well, I will tell you this. When we went away from America making things in America, being supplied by America.
Right.
And we said, no, we'll use foreign entities because it's a little bit cheaper. So the finished product will be a little bit more affordable.
Yeah.
We found out during the pandemic that, you know what, these people from around the world are going to help you when it's profitable for them. They're not going to help you when it's not. And when they can take advantage of that, they're going to take advantage of it. There's nobody that has shown up more in Americans' mind than I think China.
Yeah.
China has done a number on the United States, and for years I sat and would listen to policymakers and talking about trade, because the committee that I'm on Ways and Means, part of our jurisdiction is trade policy. Uh-huh. I would hear people say the most outlandish things, people that grew up in America, that live in America, that represent Americans, and saying, well, I would rather it come from China. I would rather it come out of Vietnam. I would rather, my question is, wouldn't you rather it came right from the state you represent? Wouldn't you rather it came from the town that you live in? Are you kidding me? What don't you understand?
Right.
And then always came down to, well, it's become too expensive sometimes to make it in America. And I said, well, the greater expense is not making it in America. There will be someday when not only our jobs, but our national defense will be threatened and our national security, because we're relying on somebody from outside our country to help us build what we're building. So I think we're facing that right now. So like the USMCA, the United States, Mexico, Canada agreement.
Right.
Why did the president want that renegotiated? Jobs.
Right.
Jobs.
Right.
He said, why? Why would we allow this to happen? So we did the USMCA, which is getting a lot of jobs back. He's looking now at the other trade agreements we have around the world, and I think he's smart when he says, you know what, I would rather do one-on-one trade agreements than the United States versus the Pacific, the countries in the Pacific Ocean. I would say, no, we're not going to do it that way.
Right.
He's got a completely different approach to it, and the reason it's different is because he's actually had to make payroll.
Right.
He's actually had to keep his businesses open.
Yeah.
He's had to actually go to banks. He's actually gone bankrupt a couple of times and fought his way back to the top again.
Right.
So you have that type of real life experience. It's the old story. You tell your kids when they're growing up, hey, be careful, don't touch the stove, it's hot. And all of us that have children know that a child has got to touch the stove because they don't know what hot means.
Right.
Once they're burnt, they understand it.
Yeah.
I think America has touched the stove a lot of times, got burnt, and understands. Say, don't touch that. It's a hot stove. That's a hot stove. We've got to protect ourselves.
And I know for the guys in our shop, when we talk to them, they said one of the things that they really like is that whenever we're buying American products, it feels like when you purchase that or we get American steel, it's not only that you're helping to keep that money here, you're actually helping to provide a job for your neighbor. You're helping to provide a livelihood, pay for someone else's kids' college by giving them a chance to work, as opposed to that money going overseas. And I know in our shop and around here, that's the way we feel whenever we see that American-made, and bringing jobs back to America. Do you think, because of all this, what we've experienced throughout this pandemic, that this will drive some manufacturing back to the United States? Do you see that coming?
Definitely. I definitely do, and I think more than anything else. I did reference the president already because his whole life has been in the private sector. But he's been successful, yes. Has he had failures? Yes. Has he had to fight his way back? Yes. But also now you have more people from the private sector looking at serving in public office. I don't care if it's on your school board. I don't care if it's a township, working as a township, working in a county, working as a state representative, or even at the federal level. You need to have that balance of the policymakers actually having been on the field and played and had their nose bloodied a couple of times and had some defeats and learned to come back for it, as opposed to people who are really good. I use this term and sometimes people get mad at me for saying it, but it's the truth. A lot of the people I work with are great on a laptop, but they've never been on blacktop. And there's a huge difference. There is a huge difference between somebody saying, well, here, let me draw it up and I'll show you how it works. I said, no, better yet, tell me what you've done in your life, because if you've never done it, you can't possibly draw it. You can conceptualize, but unless you walk that walk, I don't really want to hear what you have to say. I'll consider it, but I'm not buying it without actually trying it.
Right. So, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that you wanted to talk about or anything else we could cover. Let
me say this, because I think the key to a lot of what happens in our country, and the same right here. And if I were to ask you, so what is Imperial? And you say, well, we do this. I said, no, what is Imperial? And then you would say, I'll tell you what Imperial is. Let me take you out and shop and introduce you to our welders. Let me take you to our design people. And it's all the teams that we build, right?
Right.
And so we're all looking for that talent. And I don't care if you're serving in Congress, and I got to tell you, the staff that works for Pennsylvania's 16th Congressional District, they do not work for me. They work for Pennsylvania's 16th Congressional District and all our constituents.
Right.
They are the hardest working, most blessed people in the world. During this pandemic, they've been working from home. They have been fielding in excess of 4,000 calls a week. Wow. Now, I'm not talking about 50 or 60 people. I'm talking about 16 or 17 people that get up every day and do the same thing every day, and that is serve the constituents. And people tell me, well, hey, Kelly, I just want to thank you for what you did, and I didn't vote for you. And I said, well, first of all, let me tell you this. You don't have to thank me. Write up a thank you note and send it to the staff. And secondly, I didn't know you didn't vote for me till right now.
Yeah.
But that's not going to affect it. We're gonna work the best way we can to make sure we serve the people who put us in office. But getting back to what makes Imperial great is the team.
Right.
What makes America great is when America is a team.
Right.
And I think that right now, I would hope people would look past some of the verbiage that's out there today. I have never seen us more divided or more polarized as a country.
Right.
And when I talk to people, I say, well, what is it that bothers you? And most of them will say, well, tweets. I said, tweets. That's what bothers you, tweets. What about the job market? What about your pension? What about the quality of our health care? What about, and look what we're going through right now with our police.
Right.
My God, these men and women in blue that put their life on the line every day are now being chastised by a group of anarchists and vandals. And when you look at the places this is happening, The people who are in charge of the safety and the security of the people in that place, why would they turn a blind eye to that and say, well, they have to blow off steam? You don't allow people to break the law and say they're just blowing off steam. No, they're destroying public and private property.
Right.
You get arrested, you pay restitution. You don't walk away from it. You don't pull down our history and then celebrate it and say, well, you don't know who this man was. I said, I do, but I know something else. You don't have a freaking clue of who it is that you just pulled down. Right. So look, our history is our history. We learn from our history. Was it perfect? No, it's not perfect. But I would ask any of the people in America, is there any other country that has to put up a wall to keep people out as opposed to keep people in? America is still the most desired address in the world. People go across deserts, go across oceans to come to America for the same reasons they always did, freedom and liberty. And when I see what's happening today, I said, my God, how can you talk disparagingly about a nation where 1.5 million men and women in uniform gave their lives to give you that opportunity today? So please, quit looking at the TV and start looking at your life. Look at the place you work, look at the place you worship, look at the place you live, and tell me that you're going to sit down tonight and make plans to move someplace else in the world because it's just become so bad for you. It's not true. America is still the greatest country, the greatest nation the world's ever known.
And I hear what you're saying, and I think the way I would sum it up is the way we're going to get through this is by us depending on each other.
Always.
And the American people and the American worker, if anything we're good at is pulling ourselves up and figuring out a way to get through it. And we appreciate having someone who's been there in the trenches before, who's been through a recession, and is understanding how to tackle these problems in the government, trying to help guide that and direct that for small businesses like us and for other small businesses out there, that you have a real world perspective on what it takes to get through some tough times and how to take care of some people that have been under your care and for generations. And and it's great. And I just want to say thanks for coming on.
No, thank you.
Thanks for everything you said.
I just leave you with this thought.
Sure.
A couple years ago, at our 50th class reunion, we were sitting around with a bunch of the kids I graduated with, and I said, you know what? Are we the luckiest people in the world to grow up in the town we grew up in, the times we grew up, with parents and preachers and teachers and coaches? Gosh, were we lucky or what? Now, there's about 10 people sitting there, and they're saying, yeah, you know what? We were lucky. We were really lucky, except for one girl. One girl looked at me, and she goes, Mom, I don't think we were lucky. I said, seriously? You don't think we were lucky? She says, no, I don't think we were lucky at all. I said, oh, well, Linda, if we weren't lucky, what were we? She looked at me now and she says, we were blessed. Yeah. And I said, you know what? I will never again in my life tell people I was lucky. I will tell them I was blessed.
There you go.
And I think that's who we are as a nation. We are truly the most blessed nation on the face of the earth, with a lot of responsibility for the rest of the world. And we show up. We show up. If there's a tsunami somewhere, we're there. If there's a hurricane somewhere, we're there. If there's a tragedy somewhere, we're there. We've given not only our wealth, we've given our lives to defend people around the world. There's no other nation in the world that's done that. Only America. Only America.
And I think we're going to make it through this.
Yes, we will.
And we're going to come out helping other people on the other side.
We sure will.
We sure will. Mike, thanks for coming on today.
It's good to be with you. It's good to be here.
Yeah.
I love being with Imperial. This is great.
We love
you guys make great stuff. Made in America for Americans.
There you
go.
There you go. Trying to keep Americans healthy and safe, create a better workplace for them. And thanks for all your help you've been for us getting things going here. And we just want to say thanks for joining us on the Dusty Jobs podcast. And we hope that you listen again next time. And have a good night.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thanks for listening to the Dusty Jobs podcast. Breathe better, work safer.